Okay, so hello, friends. This is me. My name is Emma. There's my information up there. I'll put that again at the end of the slideshow. But it's always fun if I like to hear from people. You can go on there and find my email address and write to me. And I will always write back if you do that. I am so happy to be here on this beautiful fall day, sharing a very special story with you as part of your Storytime program. Thank you to the Sonoma Public Library for inviting me. So these are my books. These are my picture books. I am a children's book writer. I write chapter books and picture books. You can see I write a lot about animals. I'll talk about that later. And I also write mostly, but not only, nonfiction. And as you might know, in the book world, that means true stories. So I write a lot of true stories about real people, real animals, and real places. And today I'm going to read, as you've already heard, the book up on the top right, Odin, Dog Hero of the Fires, about a very special dog. But I really would like to acknowledge first, before I jump into the story, that the communities of Sonoma, Napa, Lake County, and other areas around California, I know that they have really suffered a lot of tragedy and trauma as a result of these terrible wildfires over the past several years. And I was inspired to write this book to honor that trauma, but also to honor the courage of the people who lived through that. And the fact that many happy, inspiring stories of true heroes have come out of the sadness. And so today we're going to honor one of those heroes, a dog hero, Odin. So before I read the book to you, I just thought I'd introduce you to myself and talk about myself a little bit and my history. My name again is Emma, and this was me when I was 6 or 7 years old, and I grew up in San Francisco, so really close to Sonoma. And I've lived all over the country, and even in Europe. I lived in France for a couple of years, and now I'm back in San Francisco. I live just 1 block from the house that I grew up in. I have a family and they live here too. So my kids are also growing up in San Francisco. That's my husband and my daughter, Kate, and my son, Everett. And we like to go hiking in this beautiful area that we live in. We hike a lot up in Sonoma, but this is in Pacifica, just south of San Francisco. And when I'm not writing books, I have another job. I'm a librarian. I'm a public librarian with the San Francisco Public Library. I do a lot of story times. The library was closed for a long time, as you know, and luckily it's open again, but they have not started doing story times yet. So that's another reason I'm especially excited to be able to do a story time with all of you today. I showed you that a lot of my books are about animals, and that's not really a coincidence. I really like animals. And when you really like something, it's great. That is the kind of thing that you want to write about because your passion will come out onto the page. This was my first pet, Fluffy. We were living in France when I got this rabbit. A lady in the village who raised rabbits gave me a baby rabbit, and I raised him into quite an enormous rabbit, as you can see right here. So I was 9 years old at the time. So that was my first pet. And I even wrote a nonfiction book about him, apparently, How to Raise a Rabbit. I remember that I sent this little book to Ranger Rick magazine, and they sent it right back to me. So I guess that was my first experience trying to get a book published. I'm sure that many of you out there also like to make books. I did that a lot when I was little, writing and illustrating books and stapling them together. It's a great thing to do. So I still have pets. This is my dog, Piper. She is over there. You can see her sleeping on the couch right now. She's my buddy. This was when we were hiking in the mountains last year. And Piper actually looks a lot like Odin, the dog that I'm going to talk about today. She's a golden retriever, but Odin he's actually a Great Pyrenees. And I'm going to talk about that breed of dog today that I didn't know about before I wrote this book. And I just thought it occurred to me that some of you might be interested in this book as well. This is a series that I wrote called Gavin McNally's Year Off. And the first book is called Escaping the Fire. And it's parts of it are directly based on my experience on the day that the Tubbs fire began. And I also like to show it because my dog Piper got to be a character and got to appear on the cover of this book. But you can find that one in libraries as well. So that's a chapter book for somewhat older kids. So you might want to check that one out too. We also have a cat, Tim, and he is not in any of my books. Sorry, Tim, but we love him anyway. So I told you that I write about true stories. And one of the greatest things about writing about real people and animals and places is that you get to meet cool animals and people and go to cool places. This was my very first book about a wolf called OR7. And I didn't get to meet him because he's a wild wolf and wolves do not like to be around people. They're very shy, but I got to learn about him and talk to biologists who study wolves and learn a lot about wolves. This is another book that you heard about earlier called Claude, the true story of a white alligator. And again, I didn't really get to pet Claude or anything, but I did get to go to the museum and see him before the museum opened and see an alligator feeding and learn a lot about albino animals and alligators. So if you ever have a chance to go to San Francisco to the museum to see Claude, he's pretty impressive. And it was fun writing this book about him. And of course, Odin. So this book came out last year. And these are the two heroes of the book, mostly Odin, but also his sister Tessa, Odin and Tessa. And there they are. They're so beautiful. And I'm going to show you lots of pictures of them afterwards. I got to go to the ranch and meet them and pet them and play with them. And I talked to their owners and I got to see where they live. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. So before I jump into the book, just a reminder, a little context, that this book is about the Tubbs fire from 2017. And it begins on the night that the Tubbs fire began. And it takes place on a ranch that is up in between Santa Rosa and Sebastopol, and Calistoga. And the owners of Odin are called Roland and his daughter Ariel, who was a girl, a teenage girl. So they're the ones who lived on the ranch, and they owned two dogs, Odin and Tessa. And the book takes place from the point of view of Odin. So he is the one telling the story. Now, these are all of the animal characters in the book. I just love this. This is the front and end papers of the book that the illustrator, Carrie, she made this awesome little identification keys for the animals. So the goats are called Jojo, Peaches, Daryl, Aurora, Jack Sparrow, Amon-Ra, Tinkerbell, and Dixon. And then the two dogs are Odin and Tessa. And you don't have to know which goat is which, but it's kind of fun just to see them like that. Okay, here's the title page, and we are going to jump right in. All right, here we go. Darkness sets in. I take over for my sister. Woof! Your turn to sleep, Tessa. I'm on guard duty now. Good boy, Odin. Roland pats me and heads into the house. Ariel says goodnight to the goats and to me too. See you tomorrow, Odin. She kisses me right on my nose. I lick her face and she laughs. The goats drift off to sleep, and I lie next to them, my nose and ears alert. I am a working dog. I must protect my goats. It is a hot, dry night and windy, so windy. I get to my feet. The swing under the tree jerks wildly. Something is not right. A light goes on in the farmhouse window. I smell smoke. The fur on my back stands up straight. I check on the goats, all 8 of them. Peaches snuffles in her sleep. Jojo opens one eye. They are safe for now. I hear a thump on the roof. What is Roland doing up there? He points down toward the valley and my heart drops. The sky is glowing orange. Fire. Roland yells, Ariel, get the animals. Ariel runs toward the truck, carrying the cat and leaving Tessa. Odin, come, Roland shouts. He tries to drag me, to push me, but I plant myself firmly. I swallow and back away, trembling. No, I won't go. I am a working dog. I won't leave my goats. Roland drops his head for a moment, then climbs into the truck. Tears glisten on Ariel's face. Tessa jumps in and barks to me that she will keep our people safe. I watch as the truck lights disappear into the darkness. I have never spent a night away from Tessa. Roland and Ariel are my family too. I whine softly. Crash! The noise makes me jump. The barn roof collapses. Boom! A propane tank explodes near the house. The air shimmers with heat. It is overwhelming. I pant, trying to cool down. The goats are awake now, their eyes wide with alarm. Jack Sparrow pushes close to me. Tinkerbell nuzzles my neck. They clump tightly behind me, scared, waiting for my direction. The flames are moving fast, coming for us. Where can I take the goats? How can I keep them safe? Glowing embers skitter across the field. I yelp as they burn my whiskers. Roland left the gate open. I sprint through it. Bad idea. The yard is in flames. The enormous maple tree crackles and roars. Fingers of flame streak out of the farmhouse windows. I run back through the gate and turn in a circle. All around, everywhere, the sky is red. Something catches my eye. The rocks. On top of the hill, they tower above the ground, safe from fire, at least for now. That's where we have to go. I bark orders. Come on, Daryl. Faster, Aurora. Stay close, Amun-Ra. We dart through smoldering ashes. I step on red hot cinders and pain sears my foot. Limping, I carry on. The goats scamper easily over the hot ground, their feet protected by hooves. Whoosh, a burning branch blows in front of us. The goats scatter. Dixon bleats and licks his burnt shoulder, but there's no time to stop. I bark encouragement. Hurry, hurry, the fire is coming. Finally, we arrive at the rocks. Will we be safe here? I'm not sure, but it's our best option. My pulse slows as we settle down. From atop the rocks, I can see that the fire has come up from the valley and burned everything in its way. The house, the barn, the pump house, the sheds, everything is on fire. As the night wears on, I watch as the flames die down, leaving piles of smoking ashes. Then the sun rises and I stare in astonishment. The fire has passed, but it has eaten a giant path. Many trees are still burning or are gone. The air is thick with smoke and dust. I sneeze and blink. With my whiskers gone, I can't keep the dirt out of my mouth and eyes. I ache from tiredness, but I am a working dog. I won't sleep until my goats are safe. A long, lonely day passes by. Baby deer, separated from their mothers, take refuge with us. And I wanted to say that this is Emma talking now. That is true. When Roland found Odin and the goats, there were several little baby deer with them. So they must have been lost and scared, and they joined Odin and they stuck close to him and he protected them as well as the goats. So I thought that was such a sweet detail, and I wanted to make sure that we put that in the book. At night, the animals sleep while I stand guard. My eyes water from the smoke and hunger claws at my stomach. Where can my people be? And then just when I think I cannot stand for one more moment, I hear a noise. A motor. Is it my people? A car door slams. I race up the rocks so I can see. It's Roland. He runs toward me. He looks as tired as I am. Odin, Roland calls. You're alive. I can't believe it. The goats follow me and the skittish fawns run away. Roland's eyes widen. You're all alive, he marvels. My legs give out, but my tail doesn't. And as Roland hugs me tight, I wag it harder than I ever have before. Odin, you did it, says Roland. You saved the goats. Now relax, just relax. Let me take care of you. And this time I obey. Later, when it is safe, the rest of my family returns. Tessa runs in circles around me. Ariel hugs me and whispers, I'm so proud of you, Odin. I lick her face and she laughs. The goats crowd around us, nuzzling. Where is Roland? I see him turn around, looking at the property. In his eyes, there is something new, hope. We'll rebuild, he says quietly. We're together, and this is all that matters to me. That is the end of the narrative of the story. This is what we call at the end of a book, especially a nonfiction book, we call this the back matter. And this is where I can tell more information and I can give pictures of the real characters in the book. This is the very last page. I like this illustration that Carrie, the illustrator, did because it shows the tree growing back and new sprouts growing. So it's a theme of the book, rebirth and starting over. So now for the fun part, I'm going to show you some pictures of Odin and Tessa and the characters. I think that if you have questions, you can put them into the chat or you can save them, jot them down and save them for the end. So Roland got Odin and Tessa when they were puppies, when they were just a few months old. He and Ariel had bought this ranch up in the hills, and they had goats, and they knew that they needed dogs to protect them from predators, from mountain lions and coyotes. And Great Pyrenees dogs are meant to do that. That's what they're bred to do. So he got them when they were tiny puppies. And Roland told me, here are some more pictures, that the first night they let the puppies sleep in the house, but after that, they had to make them sleep outside, even though it was hard to do that, because they had to make sure that the puppies, the dogs, bonded with the goats, with the animals, and didn't bond with the people. They had to know that they were there to protect the goats. So they did. And to this day, they prefer to sleep outdoors. They don't like coming inside. They're outdoor dogs. They like to sleep outdoors. And Great Pyrenees, by the way, they often work as pairs. Odin and Tessa are brother and sister, and they work together, with one of them working during the day and one of them working during the night. And we'll talk more about that. So like I said before, I got to meet the dogs. This is the first time we went to the ranch with my kids. And they are the friendliest dogs. Tessa is especially affectionate. That's her giving me a doggy kiss. And that is Odin rolling on his back with his feet in the air. And it was really great for me to be able to meet them. It really helped me write the book and make it seem more authentic. I got to meet the goats as well. This is a picture that I took. There are the goats. They like to go on rocks, which is one reason probably why Odin brought them to the rocks, to keep them safe, because that's natural to them. So we really wanted to make sure that in the book, Carrie, the illustrator, wanted to make sure that she illustrated the goats correctly. So we sent that picture to Roland, and he sent it back to me. I thought this was so cute, with these little speech bubbles where he identified each goat: Jack Sparrow, Aurora, Dixon, Peaches, and all the rest. Here's another one. So that was really helpful. So Carrie used this to, some of the goats have ears that flop down, some of their ears stick up, they're all different colors. And then again, this is the picture that she drew. And a funny story is that my niece, when she was 5, I read her the book before it came out. And we studied this page, and then I read the book, and she stopped me at one point and said, "Hey, that's not Tinkerbell." And we looked back at this page, and sure enough, she was right. But it was the kind of thing that only children who are so observant, I think, would have caught that. So we managed to change the text to make sure that the goats were all accurate. So Roland and Ariel got the goats when they were only 1 day old. They were going to be put down. They were at a farm auction, an animal auction, I believe, and they bought them for $6 each, and they brought them home. They saved their lives, and they were newborns, so they had to bottle feed them. So this is Ariel bottle feeding the goats, and they raised them. They still live there, and they are basically pets. They have more goats now. In fact, they also have sheep and horses and chickens, and they are all rescue animals. So their farm is a sort of animal sanctuary. This is a picture of their beautiful house before the fire. And this is the aftermath of the fire. There is that big tree, which I think survived. And you can see there's actually a metal swing hanging from the tree, which survived. It's always kind of interesting and sad to see what things made it through. So the story is, I learned from Roland that when 2 days after the fire, he managed to sneak back onto his property, and he drove up to his property, and he felt dread in his heart because he was sure that all of the animals would not be there. And he did not bring his daughter with him because he didn't want her to see the sadness. And to his shock, when he got up there, he saw Odin's big white tail wagging from behind this big group of rocks. And then Odin came running towards him, and then all the goats were there. And there were also a couple of baby deer, as I mentioned earlier. So he was so happy. And he came back the next day with his daughter Ariel and with Tessa, and that's a friend of theirs. They brought food and water and hay that they spread. And Odin had lost all of his whiskers and his eyelashes around his eyes. He was matted. He was a little bit yellow. He had a paw that was burnt. But overall, he was in good condition. He was really tired. He couldn't stand anymore, and he just had to lie down and wag his tail. But Roland said that he did not even want to eat. All he wanted to do was be close to his people. And apparently Roland said he seemed really proud. He could tell that Odin was very proud that he had done such a good job, that he had done what he was supposed to do. He had stayed, and he had protected his goats. The goats had to go and live at a goat sanctuary. I think it's called Goatlandia, for quite a while their pen was rebuilt. And the people, Roland and Ariel, had to go live somewhere else for a while they worked on rebuilding their house. So these are some of the facts that I learned about these amazing kinds of dogs, Great Pyrenees dogs, which I didn't know, but now I see them whenever I drive around in the country. I see them on farms. They're very common. So they're livestock guardian dogs. That means they are not guard dogs. They don't bark at people. They're not protecting their farm from intruders, and they're not helper dogs. They're not guide dogs. They are guardian dogs, and they are bred to keep vulnerable animals safe from predators like mountain lions or coyotes, and that is in their blood. That's what they do. They originally came from Spain and France, where they lived with shepherds. And they came into the US in 1824. That's when they were introduced to our country. They get really big, up to 110 pounds. They are nocturnal by nature, and that means that they are perfectly happy being awake at night. So they usually work in pairs, and one of them will be awake, will take care of the animals during the day, and one of them will do it during the nighttime. So when the Tubbs fire started, and Ariel and Roland only had minutes to leave, to escape, Odin was on duty, and that's why he refused to leave. Tessa was off duty, so she left with the people, but Roland said he really had the feeling that Tessa felt like she was taking care of them. She was saying, "You take care of the animals, Odin, I'm going to take care of our people," and she left with them. And lastly, they make really great pets. Even though they're not meant to be pets, they're meant to be working dogs. They are affectionate and wonderful and loyal and kind, which I got to experience when I got to meet them. So I have something kind of sad to tell you. Odin, he died a couple months ago. He was only 5 years old. So these dogs were only a year and a half when the Tubbs fire happened, when they were so brave. And he died an early death just a couple months ago, and it was really, really sad. And additionally, poor Tessa, besides being really sad, was left with a big job, and it was too much for her to take care of all of these animals. So they decided that they needed a new pair of Great Pyrenees to help Tessa out. So they found this bonded pair, their brother and sister, called Buddy and Snowflake, and they were in Missouri at a rescue center. So the man on the right drove Buddy and Snowflake all the way across the country, and I have a funny photo to show you. This is a photo from his trip. He took 5 days to drive across the country, and he stayed in motels at night. So this is Buddy and Snowflake. So they each have a bed, sleeping in the motel on the way. And I think they're such cute dogs with a little bit of black in their ears. So they arrived at the farm, and Tessa showed them the ropes. They spent a couple days tramping around the farm, walking the perimeter of it, getting the hang of things. So now Tessa has someone to help her. She has this new pair of young dogs. And I just love the photo on the right of their beautiful property up in the mountains. The dog on the right is Roland's pet, Jezebel. She's not a working dog. She's a pet dog. He calls her his house dog, and she's a real sweetie too. So that is just about the end of my presentation. On the left, that's Odin right after the fire, and he doesn't have any more whiskers or eyelashes. His fur is all matted, and he was exhausted. But look how happy he looks. And then there he is on the right. So beautiful, such a wonderful hero dog. Thank you so much, everyone. This is my information again. Feel free to reach out to me. I would love to answer any emails or hear your own stories. And I'm going to stop sharing now and pass this back and would love to hear if anyone has any questions.